Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Displaced residents of South Lebanon start to return home after Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire begins. US trade partners say Trump's tariffs would harm all involved. Mexico warns it will kill jobs, hints at retaliation. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says Indo-Pacific landscape calls for a wider collaborative approach, terms G7 as partner for it. India's Divith Reddy creates history, becomes world under-8 chess champion. Compatriot Satvik Swan makes it double delight, wins a silver. Big breaking news coming in this hour. Hamas says that it is ready for Gaza Truce. Now, this comes after US President Joe Biden said on Tuesday that his administration was pushing for an elusive ceasefire in Gaza and that it is possible that Saudi Arabia and Israel could normalize relations. He had said that now Hamas has a choice to make. Their only way out is to release the hostages, including American citizens, which they hold. Big breaking news coming, and it is up your screen. Hamas must release the hostages, says US President Joe Biden. And Hamas has said that it is ready for a Gaza truce. This happens after Israel and Hezbollah announced a truce yesterday. Akshay Dongre is joining us on phone line. Akshay, how big is it? How significant is it? Hamas says that it is ready for a Gaza truce.
Well, it's quite significant, Preeti, because, it has been only about 24 hours that the news has come that Israel and Hezbollah have agreed for a ceasefire for the next 60 days. And that involves the Israeli Defense Forces pulling back from the southern part of Lebanon, moving back into territory. And this clearly had only one meaning, that now the Israeli Defense Forces, the Israeli leadership, and the Israeli military will now be focused not on two fronts, but solely on the front of Gaza, where it will be trying to eliminate the entire Hamas leadership. They are aware of it, and perhaps that's the reason why after the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, the Hamas leadership has realized that what will it mean for the next few days, for at least in Gaza. That could be increased number of bombings, increased number of raids, increased number of ground operations, and that could have been extremely fatal, not just for the Hamas leadership, but also for the people who are living in Gaza at this point. So perhaps that's the reason why the Hamas leadership have had no other option but to agree for a ceasefire. But it remains to be seen, Preeti, that whether the Israeli leadership will agree for a ceasefire, because the only reason why the Israeli leadership could, in fact, get a popular opinion to have a ceasefire with the Hezbollah was that if they can now focus completely on Hamas and how to eliminate the group so that it doesn't threaten Israel ever again. But when it comes to a ceasefire with Hamas, it is highly unlikely that it will happen unless the hostages are returned and, Israel is assured that the Hamas leadership poses no threat again to Israel in the future as well.
All right, Akshay, now we've seen multiple rounds of negotiations took place, and representatives from other countries tried their best to end the conflict in between Israel and Hamas. For the benefit of our viewers, just give us a quick recap of what went into bringing in this deal, bringing in this truce between both the sides. Now that Hamas says that it is ready for Gaza truce, what all has gone into this?
Can you repeat the question, Preeti?
Yes, I'm saying that we've seen how in the past multiple efforts have been made to achieve a truce or a deal or a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. Added to that, we've seen ceasefire did happen earlier also, but then talking of a deal, this is when Hamas says that it is ready for a deal. Added to that, just for the benefit of our viewers, get us a quick recap of,
Right.
how things shaped up so that we've come to this day when Hamas says that it is ready for a Gaza truce.
Well, it was quite clear, Preeti, that when we look at this entire fiasco, let's talk about the earlier ceasefire, which were temporary. In fact, even after the ceasefire was implemented, we could see attacks from both the sides.
Yes.
In fact, the Israeli raids taking place in Gaza, and then also rockets being fired by Hezbollah as well. But now, this particular situation that has arrived as of now clearly is a repercussion of the Hezbollah and Israel coming to terms that a ceasefire will be implemented, and that means clearly more pressure on Hamas. Now, more clarity for the Israeli Defense Forces to divert its attention to intensify operations. So that is going to be fatal for Hamas, and Hamas clearly has no other option as of now. Because Israel has been in conflict with Iran as well over this entire thing. There have been no significant escalation that Hamas may have been hoping for. There has been attempts by Hezbollah to open a new front, and now that is also closing. And despite that front was open, Israel was successfully carrying out operations in Gaza as well. So if let's say the Hezbollah stops fighting Israel, then the entire Israeli Defense Forces focuses on only Hamas, only wiping out Hamas leadership from Gaza or Hamas operatives from Gaza, and that is clearly going to be extremely fatal for the group because of the imbalance that is there when it comes to the training, when it comes to resources, when it comes to the weaponry. Israel is far superior than any other force present in the region, and Hamas has no funding left anymore. They do not have leadership. Their leaders have been killed, and now they have been replacing their leaders every now and then. So Hamas realizes that it is going to be fatal, and especially after the election of Donald Trump, we have also seen that the countries that were housing or that were supporting Hamas leaders are also now extremely wary of supporting any element of Hamas. Because it can attract ire of the United States president as well.
Akshay, are you saying that in the near future we can expect an end to the conflict?
That entirely depends, Preeti, because that entirely depends on whether Israel wants to implement a ceasefire with Hamas or not, because the public opinion clearly is that this is a chance to wipe out Hamas. They can completely take out the enemy this time around, so that it never poses a threat again. And even after the hostages have returned, there is no guarantee that Israel will not attack Hamas. So whether this is going to be an end to the conflict or not, that remains to be seen. Even Hamas is aware of that, but as of now, this can pressurize Israel actually, that Hamas has now agreed for a truce. So at least when it comes to the hostages and the return of hostages, it can put some pressure on the Israeli Defense Forces that they also agree for a ceasefire.
All right, so we'll have to see how the days ahead pan out. Thank you so much, Akshay, for joining in and explaining us this latest development. This is the big breaking coming in from West Asia, where Hamas has agreed for a Gaza truce. Remember, this comes just close to 24 hours when the ceasefire between the truce between Hezbollah and Israel was announced yesterday. So we'll have to see how this development further develops and how the days ahead pan out. We'll keep you updated. Meanwhile, the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah, which I referred just a while back, brokered by the US and France, took effect from Wednesday. And with that, streams of cars carrying people displaced from southern Lebanon began heading south. Residents were seen whooping and cheering as they drove into Tyre, the second largest city in the south. Earlier, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a televised speech, said that Israel is implementing the ceasefire deal to bring a halt to its conflict with Hezbollah in Lebanon, but will respond forcefully to any violation. He added that the ceasefire would allow Israel to focus on Iranian threat and intensify pressure on Hamas.
So why implement a ceasefire now? There are three main reasons. The first reason is to focus on the Iranian threat. The second reason is to give our forces a breather and replenish stocks. And the third reason for having a ceasefire is to separate the fronts and isolate Hamas. From day two of the war, Hamas was counting on Hezbollah to fight by its side. When Hezbollah is out of the picture, Hamas is left alone in the fight. Our pressure on it will intensify, and that will help us in our sacred mission of releasing our hostages.
US President Joe Biden called the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah good news. Talking to media, Biden said that the accord was designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities. He reiterated that civilians on both the sides will soon be able to safely return to their communities.
The fighting across the Lebanese-Israeli border will end. Will end. This is designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities. What is left of Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations will not be allowed, I emphasize, will not be allowed to threaten the security of Israel again. Over the next 60 days, the Lebanese army and state security forces will deploy and take control of their own territory once again. Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure in southern Lebanon will not be allowed to be rebuilt. And over the next 60 days, Israel will gradually withdraw its remaining forces. And civilians on both sides will soon be able to safely return to their communities.
While French President Emmanuel Macron also welcomed the truce, saying that it represents a new chapter for Lebanon, Macron also said that the deal should open the path for an ending of the Gaza conflict.
Je tenais à saluer l'accord de cessez-le-feu.
This ceasefire needs to be respected in the long term. In order to restore the Lebanese people's security, the Israeli people's security, permit the safe return of displaced people from these two countries to their homes, and therefore allow the restoration of the sovereignty of the Lebanon. This agreement should also open the path for a ceasefire too, long awaited with regard to the incomparable suffering of the population in Gaza.
Permettre le retour sûr des déplacés.
World leaders hailed the truce deal between Israel and Hezbollah. Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati has welcomed the ceasefire agreement during a phone call with US President Joe Biden. The Lebanese Prime Minister thanked the US President and French President for the support and efforts made by them. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Tuesday welcomed the ceasefire deal and called for the truce to be turned into a lasting political solution in Lebanon. The UK Prime Minister also hoped for a truce in the Gaza conflict. Hailing the truce between Israel and Hezbollah, EU chief Ursula von der Leyen said that the deal will increase Lebanon's internal security and stability. The European Union's policy chief, Josep Borrell, also welcomed the ceasefire deal, saying it is a relief in the devastating situation in West Asia. He also praised France and the US for their mediation. Hailing the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah, Japan said that it strongly supported the efforts made by the US and France to broker the deal. Mexico and China have issued warnings of retaliatory measures, and Canada urged unity as the US President-elect Donald Trump's tariff announcements riled the world markets and unsettled its neighbors and China. Trump chose trade lawyer Jamison Greer as his new U.S. trade representative, elevating a key veteran of his first-term trade war against China. We get you a detailed report ahead.
The leaders of Mexico and Canada have urged dialogue and cooperation after U.S. President-elect Donald Trump pledged to impose 25% tariffs on two countries when he takes office early next year. Trump has also promised 10% additional tariffs on all imports from China. China too responded by saying that economic and trade cooperation is mutually beneficial for both the countries and that no one will win a trade war or a tariff war. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke to Trump on the phone shortly after he announced his plans. Trudeau has since said that he is prepared to work with the US in a constructive way.
I had a good call with Donald Trump last night again. We obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and effective connections between our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call. This is something that we can do, laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do.
The other neighboring country, Mexico, also urged caution. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said neither threats nor tariffs would solve the issues raised, and also warned of retaliatory tariffs on US imports if Trump goes ahead. She said that she is planning to write to Trump, stressing the need to work together on joint challenges.
A un arancel vendrá otro.
To one tariff will become another, and so on, until we put our common businesses at risk. Mexico's main exporters to the United States, which came to Mexico 80 years ago, why put a tax on them that puts them at risk? Why put a tax on them that puts them at risk? It is not acceptable and would cause the US and the Mexico inflation and job losses. I think that there's going to be an agreement with the United States and with President Trump.
No es aceptable.
During highly charged presidential campaign, Trump repeatedly promised increased tariffs on all imports into the US. Team Trump portrayed the tariffs policy as a key tool to bring back jobs and manufacturing from overseas. However, the experts believe that the new tariffs can have serious implications not only for the US but also for the global supply chains and companies that do business with some of the world's largest economies. Trump made his threat in social media posts announcing 25% tariffs against neighbors Canada and Mexico, and also 10% additional tariffs on China if they don't stop illegal immigration and drug smuggling into the United States. Bureau Report, TD India.
Former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan's party suspended street protests demanding his release from jail after a sweeping midnight raid by security forces in the capital Islamabad. Now, according to Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf statement, the party had announced a temporary suspension of the protest in which at least 6 people, including 4 paramilitary soldiers and 2 protesters, have been killed. The heavy fortified red zone was empty of protesters, but several of their vehicles were left behind, including the remains of a truck from which Bushra Bibi had been leading the protest that appeared charred by the flames. PTI had planned on staging a sit-in in the red zone until the release of Khan, who has been in jail since August last year. You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break. But after the break, IFFI is paying tribute to Bollywood's iconic stars who are completing their 100 years. Cricket fraternity remembers Australian batsman Philip Hughes on 10 years of his tragic passing.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar attended the G7 FMM outreach session with Indo-Pacific partners on Wednesday. He noted that the Indo-Pacific is experiencing significant changes, including new convergence and partnership, as well as anxieties, friction and stresses. He also said that the region's landscape today creates a compelling argument for a wider collaborative approach. Dr. S. Jaishankar highlighted the 6 key responses required in the Indo-Pacific region. More collaboration in areas like maritime, semiconductors, supply chains, etc. More resources both to support greater activities and projects as well as to avoid bad borrowing and unsustainable debt. More capacities in fields like governance, health, technology, disaster resilience and natural resource management. More interoperability and burden sharing to service the global commons and contribute to global good. Respect for international law as well as for mutuality of benefits. More options so that Indo-Pacific policy makers are able to make the right choices. In an era of collaborative endeavors, the Indo-Pacific will require practical solutions, nimble diplomacy, greater adjustment and more open conversations. The G7 can be one such partner. Let's get to other updates now. We'll get to updates from the 55th edition of Indian International Film Festival, that is IFFI. Now, IFFI is hosting a special centenary celebration paying tribute to Bollywood's iconic stars who are completing their 100 years. The exhibition, in fact, has been named as Safarnama. DD India's Deepika Mehto has more on this.
In a unique initiative, the International Film Festival of India, in its 55th edition, is conducting centenary celebrations of the legends of Indian cinema. IFFI 2024 promises to bring music, art and culture to the heart of entertainment. Keeping that up, a beautiful exhibition has been unveiled called Safarnama, Evolution of Indian Cinema at Kala Academy in Goa. The multimedia exhibition is set up by Central Bureau of Communication, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting with a view to reach out to the people regarding India's rich cinematic tradition and history. The history of Indian cinema dates back to the film Raja Harish Chandra when India was under colonial rule. Even with that, India managed to create a cinematic mind. That tradition has been kept intact till now. This particular initiative from IFFI aims at saluting that rich heritage and showcasing the tradition, especially before the young students, to entice their interests in cinema and the rich cultural value we have inherited through it.
Old is always gold. Raj Kapoor ne when I was a child, those times we used to get nice stories, were very cool, nice, understanding, सीख मिलती थी हम लोगों को. And there is a lot of difference, but मेरे बच्चों को मिला देखने के लिए, that is very important. So I have come with my school children. Even थोड़े actress without any makeup भी करते थे. It was natural था सब. And there is differentiate कर सकते हैं ना बच्चे कि क्या था पहले, क्या अभी क्या है.
In the Safarnama exhibition, 4 galleries are dedicated for the 4 legends whose centenary is being celebrated at IFFI this year. Raj Kapoor, Mohammad Rafi, Tapan Sinha and Akileni Nageswara Rao. The exhibition honors these 4 cinematic legends with curated content and rare archival materials, including posters, videos and memorabilia paying tribute to these iconic figures who shaped Indian cinema.
And there you saw a special tribute to the legends of Indian cinema that is being celebrated at the 55th edition of International Film Festival of India. With camera person Ajit, this is Deepika reporting for DD India from Goa.
India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati launched its own OTT platform, Waves, during IFFI in Goa. It offers a broad spectrum of entertainment and news content. The app is now available for download on Android and iOS platforms. This platform aims to cater to a wide audience with its mix of live channels, movies, TV shows, games and live events. The application can be downloaded via a QR code as well. Let's get to sports updates now. 8-year-old Divith Reddy created history on Tuesday by becoming a world champion in the Under-8 World Cadets Chess Championship in Italy. The Hyderabad chess prodigy accumulated 9 out of a possible 11 points, the same as his compatriot Satvik Swen. However, Divith clinched his gold based on his superior tie-break score and Satvik settled for the silver medal. Divith, who has a FIDE rating of 1,784 points, prevailed, overcoming a 3-way tie against compatriot Satvik and China's Ziming Go. Making a rollicking start to his campaign, Divith won his first 4 matches, but a brief slump followed with 2 consecutive losses. However, he bounced back in the tournament, showing his mental strength to win his final 5 rounds and secure the top spot. And today, that is 27th of November, marks the 10 years of the tragic passing of Australian batsman Philip Hughes. Hughes passed away just at the age of 25 and only 3 days short of his birthday. Hughes was up against his old teammates from New South Wales and he was batting on 63 when he was hit by a delivery bowled by Sean Abbott at Sydney Cricket Ground. It resulted in the bleeding of the brain and Hughes underwent emergency surgery, but all efforts went in vain. Boasting some fine techniques and perfect timing, Philip Hughes represented Australia in 26 tests, 25 ODIs and 1 T20 international. Hughes scored 63 in his final innings against New South Wales. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms and you can download the respective QR code. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.